Now, for more on this, we're joined by Zainab Chaudry. She's the spokeswoman and Maryland Director for the Council on American-Islamic Relations. That's America's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization. She joins us live from Baltimore. Welcome to the program. And why do you think, Zainab, we're seeing this fighting in Gaza now? Is it just about the upcoming Israeli elections, would you say?
You know, every so often we see this cyclical violence that's launched, this aggression that's launched against Palestinians, specifically in Gaza. And this latest launch of airstrikes that's taken the lives of nearly a dozen people, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, including a 5-year-old little girl whose name is Ala Qadoum, and injured dozens others, is just another example of the aggression by an apartheid Zionist regime that has perpetuated violence against a group of individuals in Gaza that have been trapped in a blockade region for nearly 15 years. This is a cyclical violence that we've seen, happen every once in a while, every so often, whenever, the political climate warrants it. And this is a region of land that, as I mentioned earlier, it's under blockade by land, air, sea, which has had a devastating impact on the economy and the infrastructure of this region.
And last month's visit by Joe Biden, is there any link to that at all? And what sort of pressure was there, or could there have been, to avoid another round of fighting and possibly, we hope this doesn't escalate and be a repeat of the war we saw last year in May?
Well, our organization CARE is absolutely calling on the Biden administration to take immediate action to de-escalate and to intervene and to end the assault on Palestinian lives. These strikes come at a time when the U.S. government is actually considering on downgrading the congressionally mandated security apparatus that is tasked with making sure that the Israeli government and the Palestinian people are not engaging in acts of aggression. This is supposed to be a neutral party, a back channel that's supposed to be a calming influence in this kind of a time. And downgrading this kind of a security apparatus, especially in this political climate, would detrimentally impact the security of the Palestinian people, and it would leave them more vulnerable to attacks by the Israeli government. And the question we really have to ask ourselves, especially as Americans, is how many more 5-year-old Palestinian children are we as a nation willing to sacrifice before we hold our own government accountable? Now, the United States sends over approximately $5 billion in aid to Israel every year. And this is money that is used to not only continue and perpetuate the human rights violations against Palestinians, but also perpetuate the siege of Gaza. This is the largest open-air prison in the world. Now imagine 2 million people crammed into about 140 square miles. When these kind of attacks happen, these people have nowhere to go. This child that was murdered, 5-year-old Ala, she was in her own home. And it's often the innocent civilians who are the ones who suffer the most in these kind of detrimental attacks. And we are calling on Congress to also act and engage the Leahy laws, which were passed to help prevent the funding of any security forces that are engaged in human rights violations in countries around the world, and especially in a country like Israel, which many national human rights organizations have accused of being responsible and engaging in apartheid. It's unconscionable that our government is sanctioning these kind of violence.
And Zainab, do you really think anything is going to change with regards to the US's position on Israel? Given what we've seen last year, given what we keep on seeing?
It's absolutely imperative that people of conscience, organizations, hold our government accountable. Until we raise our voices and we continue to speak truth to power and make sure that our tax dollars are not being used to continue and perpetuate these aggression, nothing will change. However, we are seeing a shift in public perception, and that is gratifying. We're seeing, for example, in Congress, there are more voices that are speaking out. Our own senator in Maryland, U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen, has been vocally advocating and calling for an independent investigation into the murder of American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, whose family is still working to get justice for her and calling for an independent investigation. And when we have voices of conscience who are speaking up and who are continuing to demand justice and accountability, that's what's going to help bring about change. And no government anywhere in the world should be above the law. No government should have impunity to continue to perpetuate these kind of human rights violations. We need to end this 15-year siege of Gaza. We need to liberate the Palestinian people. And it's time for our government to also understand the role that it plays in making sure that this kind of blood is not on our hands.
Zainab, Good luck with your work and the work of your organisation. Thank you so much for making time for us today here on CRT World. Appreciate it. Zainab Chaudry, thank you.